like, it sounds like you're addicted to this. Like, that's the kind of desperate language you're using. And that really shook me because I had gotten a few levels into Hollywood, and I felt it is kind of a pyramid scheme, and you feel like if you just get one more, then you'll be in this league, you know? And it's really alluring, it's really addicting. But when she said that, it really shook me, and I realized I was playing the game more than being like a passionate storyteller.
Hello and welcome to Artists Like Us, where we explore the creative journeys of those that you might pass by every day, your neighbor, your coworker, your best friend. We're here to shine a light on the artists among us, the ones balancing their passions with the sometimes pleasant and often harsh realities of life. I'm your host, Janita Richards, and together we'll dive into the stories, struggles, and successes of the creative souls who may not be household names, but who make our worlds more vibrant. Let's discover the artistry that surrounds us with the Artists Like Us. And today, our artist like us is Connor Pritchard. Connor Pritchard is a co-creator and writer of the beloved Comedy Central's Workaholics, and since then, he's written and sold scripts for various projects and is currently building a community on his Substack, How to Build a Movie Studio, where he escapes Hollywood and goes forth to build a counterculture of screenwriters and storytellers. Connor, thank you so much for sitting with us.
I'm excited to be here. I love the premise of this podcast.
Yay. I right before we got on here, it just connected. I texted one of my best friends who it was me, him, and like our friend Jake and my best friend Jamie. We all lived in a house together in college, and it wasn't a frat house by any means, but we definitely had like the party house, and we watched a lot of Workaholics. And so I texted him. I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm doing this," and he says, "Ask him about Poop Dollar." That is his only response.
Yeah, there are so many things we would like. Chappelle's show did this too, but you would go through the writer's room process and you try to predict what was going to be the big hit or go viral, and every year it was always wrong. But I remember there was a lot of thought going into Poop Dollar, and we knew that was going to be a hit. We knew that was going to have a life on the internet.
Yeah, no, it was good. This same friend, he recreated a Poop Dollar on YouTube, and it's a really good one. I just watched it before I came on here to remind myself, like, they're hiding in the bushes. He tells me all about it. Like, it was like they've been out there all day and no one took the bait. This van drives by, like a plumber's van, and then it backs up, like it reverses. The guy gets out of the car, picks up the dollar, and they scream, "Poop Dollar!"
Yeah.
Like from there, like really, really brought it home. It was pretty perfect.
And well, speaking of houses too, frat houses, we could not find a house that was better than the house that those dudes lived in. So we actually shot the show in their real house. So we would come in the morning and they would like get woken up for a call time, dragged out of bed, thrown in their trailers outside, and then they would start setting up lights in their own bedrooms. So it was just, there was such a natural authenticity to that world of having beer cans and energy drinks and guy posters on the wall that you couldn't fake it.
Yes, I didn't realize that was their real house. I had no idea, but it feels super lived in. I just thought, wow, the set dresser is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's now an Airbnb, or you can do something with it. It's out in the valley, and I think there's like an experience you can stay there. I'm not sure, but it was wild. We were very, very young when that got started, so things like Poop Dollar were very funny to us.
I would love to know more about how you guys all like got started. Did it come to you in a dream? Was it just kind of hanging out? I mean, did you have like these aspirations before?
Yeah. Well, how I can go pretty deep on this topic, but the quick gist is I always knew I wanted to be a writer, and my best friend from home was a roadie for Barbra Streisand. He was selling her artwork on the road, and then he called me. He was like, "I know you're doing the film and TV thing. I just don't ever want to have a real job. Can I move in with you?" He moved in, and we started producing comedy shows. And we were really good, like going back to our high school days, we were the rally commissioners. So we planned all these events and planned theme parties. So we were really good at motivating and like organizing people and coming up with like clever games. So we started doing comedy shows, and that's where we met Adam, who was a ticket taker at the LA Improv on Melrose. Like, he was taking tickets, checking people in, and we befriended Adam. And he said, the LA Improv people told him, they're like, if you can fill a midnight slot and, get people in here, we'll give that to you, and you can start performing and being the host. So that's how it all started. We started organizing theme parties, costume parties, comedy shows, and then that whole little unit, we built our network because we always had something to invite someone to, whether it was a manager or an agent or another comedian. Every week there was something on the docket, and we just kind of came up that way, just being the really fun people that were always doing something weird.
So you would say it kind of came naturally between like we're all hanging out, we're all always doing these fun things. How did someone approach you guys like, hey, maybe you guys should write a show?
Yeah, well, this is where it gets interesting, and I'll just go for it because it's kind of a crazy topic, but we knew we wanted to kind of take these guys and put them into a world that we could try to sell as a sitcom. And my uncle at the time was a producer in Hollywood, and he had taken over an old porn studio out in the valley. And it was like a Costco sized warehouse with there was like alien themed porn sets in the back warehouse, and there was like kitchen sets. And he created a production company that ended up being a boiler room. So they were raising money for a slate of movies that they were never going to shoot. So we didn't know this at the time, but it was a huge financial scam. But before that all blew up, I borrowed $7,000 from him personally, and we shot the webisode of Workaholics in the old porn studio. And then as we were getting a show and going into Hollywood and getting launched into the stratosphere, the FBI started investigating that company and they arrested everyone. So it was wild start. Whenever I do a Q&A at a film school, they're like, how did you break in? And I'm like, well, I don't really quite know how to. It's kind of a crazy story. But they ended up, I think it's CNBC ended up making a documentary about that company on a show called American Greed.
Oh, I've heard of American Greed.
Yeah. So there was it was a pretty crazy deal, but I borrowed $7,000. We shot 5 webisodes over the course of a few weekends. And we were all PAs and sandwich delivery guys and ticket takers. No one had a real job. And we threw it online. And I think when we got a call from Comedy Central, it had 238 hits. It did not go viral. It ended up getting hits after the fact when it got picked up and turned into a show. But it was just the right person saw it. And for any young writers or aspiring screenwriters out there, if you're going to break into the Hollywood machine, you need an internal champion, someone that's going to stake their career on your talent or idea. And we just found one of those people. This guy, Walter Newman, who's an executive, but he was young, and he was like, this is the project that's going to make my career. And he fought for it through every step.
The having 238 views only seems unfortunately impossible in today's market, just because I feel you hear even celebrities talking about it, how they've lost out on roles because they didn't have enough Instagram followers,
Yeah.
So you definitely a lightning in a bottle thing that feels like it couldn't happen today, because a lot of people aren't trying to take chances on things. They want a sure thing. They want existing IP. They want remakes and whatnot. So
yeah, and
that's amazing.
It feels like a long time ago, but when I was in my 20s, the internet content was kind of just becoming a thing. It feels like it's been with us forever, but it was the Lonely Island guys, the guys who went on to SNL. They were the ones that kind of went first and really got notoriety and fame, and we were kind of right after it. So it was still new, I remember when we put the episodes on Funny or Die. Do you remember Funny or Die? Was that before your?
Yeah.
Yeah. They had just started the binge model where you could click through webisodes. So basically what we did, and why I think we were viewed as like somewhat smart, although we're all idiots, is we made a pilot and then just chopped it up into 5-minute webisodes that you could click through. You just watch. So it was a binge watch. And I think that showed some foresight for, being idiots with $7,000 shooting a dumb show in a porn studio. So it helps us out.
No, that's super smart. I mean, that's kind of still the MO today, or the advice rather, except now it's like chop up your 5-minute pilot into 15-second TikToks.
Yeah.
And get it that way, which is a little harder to get like a nice
get traction on. And my best friend and I it was a right place, right time thing for us. Those guys, the dudes on the show, would have gotten a show without us. We just happened to be the ones that kind of contained some of their magic, like lightning in a bottle. Like, hey, let's not do all these crazy sketches. Let's just put you guys in an office space type setting and get creative within those confines. So we rode in on their coattails. And what's crazy is when you get in and you actually break into Hollywood, one bad, stupid, funny credit can create a lifetime of opportunities. Like, anyone will return my emails now because I have one credit. So it just takes one to get in.
It's like that Lady Gaga quote when she was doing the A Star Is Born press circuit, and she's like, there can be 100 people in a room and 99 of them don't believe in you, and one of them does. And it's like, you gotta keep singing because it's totally true.
Yeah. There's another quote that I use all the time when I coach writers. It's like the rule of thirds. So no matter anything you put out into the world, 1/3 of the people who see it are going to hate it. They're just going to hate whatever it is. They're going to hate you. 1/3 will be indifferent. And the last third will absolutely love it because it speaks to them and it's authentic. And you cannot write or create for the other 2/3. You only create for the 1/3 that is going to truly love what you're doing. And it's the minute you start trying to please everyone or get too broad or incorporate all this feedback, it's going to lose its magic and it won't have any impact with any of the thirds.
When do you feel like you realize that yourself and able to internalize that?
Well, I mean, I used to read comments and, I shot a lot of video content when I was younger, and I would read comments and it just all felt so toxic. So it's hard. I mean, you go through so many evolutions as a writer and creator, and you get deeper into the game, you kind of incorporate tactics. But I think when I'd been in the trades a few times, like deadline announcements, I stopped reading it because I was like, I don't want to. It's not important. I don't care what people think about me or my projects. Like, I'm going to put it out into the world and move on.
Yeah, the audience comes last.
Yeah. And another trick that I do that really helps is I don't think in terms of audience. I write every project for one person. So every script, every feature, every book that I've ever written, I pick one person. It's usually a family member or a really close friend. And I filter the entire tone through, like, it's a personal gift to them. Sometimes I don't even tell them it's for them, but it really helps me keep that narrow focus where it feels intimate.
I like that. I haven't heard of that, but it does remind me a bit of, so in the tech space, I work in tech. When you're creating a product, you come up with like user personas, like this person is going to use this or that person is going to use this, and you really build them out. Usually it's 2 or 3 people.
Yep.
But it's still pretty narrow, and you just have to assume that that one person will represent many because no one is completely a unique, still single standing individual.
Yeah. And the more specificity, that's really hard, but the more specificity you have to your writing, to your comedy, to your world building, the more rich it's going to be. It's really hard to do, but because you kind of have to trust yourself and trust the process. But that's what always helped me, is like not thinking about how it's going to be received and only writing it for one person.
Mhm. And when you are writing it for one person, and I'm thinking writing across the genres as well, what different parts of, and I don't mean this in a scientific way, but different parts of your brain lights up when you're writing comedy or when you're switching to something else? How are you approaching that?
Like, how do I approach the different genres?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I think, if there's any screenwriters out there listening, you have an early choice point in your career to be an auteur or a mercenary, right? And I don't know what you are. If you're like, an auteur is someone that's like, I'm going to own this niche and I'm only going to make low budget, sci-fi romance. But a mercenary is like a generalist that's like, I'm comfortable in any genre. And
Mm.
that's how I approached it. So I love big worlds because I love doing research. I read a ton of fantasy and sci-fi. So I like the world building aspect of it and doing these deep dives and filling up pages of notebooks. And with comedy, it's kind of like comedy is so collaborative. So you kind of get the blueprint down and then you have to incorporate all these other people and like people you love and people that are other comedy writers and comedians. And you get the framework down and then it really, like, the Christmas tree gets decorated by everyone. Right.
Mm.
And that happens so often on Workaholics where we would stay up super late at night trying to perfect scripts. We'd bring those scripts to set and the dudes would improv something that was infinitely better than something that we labored over for hours. So it was
Mm.
humbling in that way too. But I really like building worlds. I love research. I love drama. I love procedurals. And comedy was the easiest one for me. And that's where most of my credits are. But um, it's hard now. It's kind of the least active genre in Hollywood.
I wonder if that's because comedy is so hard. Like, I think it's one of the more difficult things to do. I always joke is it's easy to make somebody cry. It's really hard to make somebody laugh. Like, I know how to tug on the heartstrings, but sometimes the joke doesn't land. Oh, what now?
Yeah, and it's almost like there's dramas that are funnier than comedies, right?
Oh, we're seeing that a lot
Yeah,
now.
and I think what happens, most comedies now are overwritten. And I did this when I was a younger writer, but you want to put your unique stamp on the script. So you put in a lot of jokes, you make the dialogue very stylized, you have over the top set pieces. And then what's happening is it feels so jokey and there's a joke every few lines and it all starts to fall flat. But if you're writing a drama with some comedic elements, the story has room to breathe. There's like slower parts, and then the comedy naturally bubbles up, and it's more organic, right? And you get better laughs. Like, I think some of the best laughs I've ever had in stories or in theaters are from weird, like a drama movie, like Burn After Reading when Brad Pitt gets his
So
head
good.
blown off.
Yeah.
I had a weed gummy, and I almost had to leave the theater because I was laughing so hard. The stupid look that he has on his face, and it's shocking. Yeah,
Yeah, no, Burn After Reading definitely, I feel like, changed my life, honestly. I can still pinpoint just a point in my life where I was watching that movie, and also just considering my age when I saw Brad Pitt as like an actor and hilarious person as opposed to this heartthrob
yeah,
that I kind of missed the time of. I was like, oh my goodness, it's all clicking. I get you. I get it all.
yeah. I love that movie. He's so quirky. What genre are you most comfortable in?
I definitely like to write comedy, but I lean towards the darker sides of things. And I wouldn't even say dark comedy. Like the play that I've written now, the first half of it, it's super comedic, almost farcical
Yeah,
in nature. And then things kind of just take a tonal shift down where you're still laughing, but you're laughing less and less. And then you're like, oh, am I still supposed to be laughing? I feel kind of uncomfortable now until you're like, oh no, I don't think this is funny anymore. What happened? And but I love making people laugh. I always have, like when I talked about my friends and I loving Workaholics, we were super into comedy in that time. We were always going to stand up and things like that. So I've actually done stand up before. I always forget that. I did like
Great.
a very brief stint.
It's really, really hard to do. I grew up in a family of comedians, and I basically grew up in and around comedy clubs, and it's that is a skill set that's very difficult. Like it's hard to get up on a stage over and over again, and some people use it as therapy, but to there's just something intangible about a really good stand up that can hold a stage and hold the presence like that. And I could never do it, but I have so much respect for people that are good at it.
Yeah, I loved the aspect of it that I loved, of course, I love writing, and because I am an actor myself, and but I like writing more, it felt like, I mean, you are producing your own stuff, so I really liked that aspect of it. And I would have gone further into it, like done more of it, but at some point you kind of have to see, okay, I can do anything, but I can't do everything, and that's just not something I could focus my energy on at the time.
It feels like you're a collaborative person too, and you like working around
Mm.
other people. Like stand up lifestyle is very lonely. You're in hotels, you're eating room service, you're getting shuttled to and from clubs, you hang out with comedians backstage, but it's a hard lifestyle and a lonely existence, and it's just you and a crowd. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of comedians that I know, they they are very good at broadcasting their thoughts, standing in front of a stage and just telling people what they feel. But you get them into smaller groups or intimate conversations, and it's hard for them because they're so used to the crowd.
Mm.
Yeah,
No,
you're
that makes
yeah,
total
you're too
sense.
magical to be a stand-up.
I do love the collaboration aspect of everything, and I have no problem speaking my thoughts in like a table. So
Yeah.
I got it there. But I want to kind of go back to when you were talking about decorating a Christmas tree and having like how when you get all the writers together and like comedic writers as well. I guess what I'm thinking is like when you're decorating that Christmas tree, does everyone come there with kind of a similar style? Like, oh, we all like tinsel or all silver Christmas trees, or is it more of a I like the vintage style. Well, I want like an all pink tree. I want all
Yeah.
modern, and you have to kind of find some common ground there.
Yeah. I mean, writers' rooms are the most amazing place in the world. Like they're the safest unsafe place in all of creativity,
Mm,
and it's really, really hard to be. You know what a showrunner is?
yeah,
Yeah, it's really, really hard to be a showrunner.
but maybe let's explain it for
Okay.
people who might not
So
know.
a showrunner basically on a TV show is the head writer, and you're in charge of running the entire writer's room, managing all the drafts, talking to executives, working with the cast, and then you go kind of to and from when the show's in production, to and from set and the writer's room as it's going on. You are the hub of the wheel. Everything comes through you. So writers in features, films, are at the bottom of the totem pole, but writers in TV are at the top. So you're basically the chieftain of a show, and you're in charge of 100 plus people. It's crazy. But good showrunners, it's really hard because writers are more introverted. It's really hard to be like a public facing leader. But good showrunners will create, it's almost like being a conductor. So you have your writer's room, and what you're really after is cognitive diversity of like how
Mm,
people approach a problem and solve it differently. So you want someone that's just an idea machine or a joke machine that can just, like that ADD comedy brain that can just go, what if he says this? What if he says that? Then you want someone that's like a empathetic devil's advocate and be like, hey, we're kind of going off the rails here. Are you sure this is right? So you want this like symphony of different creative story brains all attacking one episode, one problem, one scene from different angles. And when it works and everyone's getting along and there's no drama, it is the most beautiful thing in the world to just be there and
mm.
have everyone high on caffeine, all these weird people solving problems together. It's the most addicting feeling in the world. I love it. Like I could spend every hour of my life in the writer's room.
I mean, it sounds super fun. It sounds kind of like playing, right?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, you just want a lot. Yeah, like going back to the Christmas tree, you just want the showrunner has to be able to highlight like strengths and weaknesses in each writer, and that's really hard to do. And making sure everyone's kind of heard and being like, okay, this person's been talking too much. Let's check in with this person. What's your gut check on this? So it's kind of like pointing at people and conducting as they go. So you all decorate this house or tree together.
So a lot of managerial skills go into being a
Oh
showrunner.
yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a big problem. Like I know I was like this when you're in your 20s and you just start getting, 20s, early 30s, you just start getting good at writing. You're like, I'm ready for a big project. And you're like, no, 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 you're not. You got to understand psychology, negotiation, communication, dealing with agents, managers, dealing with big actors who are famous, who are upset that they don't have enough lines in this script. You got to deal with drama and crew members that don't like each other. It's like just being a good writer is like if you imagine a audio like a sound mixing board, that's like with all the sliders. That's
Mhm.
just one slider. You need all of them.
Yeah. So then how much writing does the showrunner do at
um,
that point?
it depends on how fucked up and the show is. So if the show's like really behind schedule and they're doing a lot of rewrites, the showrunner won't be doing that much writing because they'll be managing problems on set, and the head writer will be kind of step in as the showrunner in the room. But all these roles are changing now as we move away from like cable of what I was on with Workaholics to streaming. So now the writers' rooms are shorter. You usually write everything up front in a block of time, and then you go into production. But before on longer shows, when they did more episodes, like the show would be shooting as you're writing new episodes.
That seems more fun almost. You just kind of get things on the go. I
Yeah,
miss cable. I actually talk about this a lot. Um there's just something nice about the fact that we were all kind of watching the same thing.
yeah,
I also miss commercials in a weird way. I was at a pizza place the other day with a friend and they were playing like The Mummy was on AMC and we just sat and we ate pizza and we watched The Mummy and I was talking about the same thing. I was like, "Yeah, I miss cable." And he's like, "Yeah, like imagine I show up to work tomorrow and I'm like, 'Hey, did you guys catch The Mummy
yeah.
last night on
People,
AMC?'" They're like, "What are you talking
people
about?"
would think you're crazy, and it wasn't that long
it
ago. Like
really
we get
wasn't.
so used to new content landscapes so quickly that we just think it's always been there. But what's crazy is now is like we had this big streaming revolution, but now we're going back to the cable model. Like Tubi works because there's
Mhm.
advertising revenue and they can distribute that accordingly. So we went through this subscription model. Now we're going back to the cable model. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's like the stuff my mom always says. She's like, "Oh, everything old is new again."
Yeah, it just circles around. But I do miss, don't know exactly when it happened, maybe 2016, 17, but the great fracturing away from kind of like mainstream water cooler stuff that everyone watched. There's still a few shows like that,
Mm.
but it feels like they're becoming less and less common. Like the shows that, Game of Thrones is probably the last big one. I know Severance is probably one right now, but
Mhm.
yeah, I miss those. I miss
Yeah.
the the mass intimacy of sharing a story together.
Yeah, I would say HBO actually has kind of a bit of a lock on the water cooler shows because I think that when The Last of Us came out, everyone I know was watching The Last of Us, and I'm like, all right, HBO, the Sunday show, we're all doing it, right?
Yeah,
And then White Lotus, like the last few seasons, everyone was watching that. Oh, in Succession, of
yeah,
course, how could I forget that? And I was like, all right. And I find it hard to like there's just so many shows. I find it hard to watch all of them, but I will watch when everyone's watching because I like to talk about it after. Like that's part of the magic to me is watching the show and then talking about it after with everyone. It's like, did you see that? What'd you like about that?
yeah.
Like I'm the person that leaves the movie theater and then searches like the title and then read it. And I'm like, what's
Yeah,
everybody else
yeah,
saying?
me too. And stories are one of the last things that can kind of unite us, right? Like
Hmm.
you might have different views on the story, but we need more of those kind of unifying elements because, yeah, there's too much of the other stuff going on.
Yeah. um, we were still talking about, or going back to talking about writers' rooms. How have you seen that besides kind of writing everything on the fly as
Yeah.
things were going? How else have you seen that change from when you had started to now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's kind of my call to action and the battle I'm fighting now because with the cable network, even though the executives were really entrenched and a lot of them had bad ideas and some of the tactics of how they scaled stories was really outdated. Like I worked on one show where we get they would do like a test focus group in Vegas and then people would just dial test. They would turn a dial. I don't like it. I like it. And they would send you this
Mm,
graph and be like, re-edit the show around people's impulse. It was horrible. Point being is it was really outdated, but that system worked because they had the money to keep writers on staff for the duration of a show. So writers got paid really well. If you wrote an episode, I still get royalty revenue from Workaholics because the system just worked. Like we wrote dick jokes to sell Taco Bell ads and I still get checks from it. It's crazy. And then
incredible. Mm.
when streaming came along, there's no more back end, right? And I'm sure it's, you know this, but I'll just do a quick primer for anyone that doesn't understand the TV world well. Streaming hit, it's all based on the subscription model. So there's no more advertising revenue. So they had to cut kind of costs and budget. And where they cut was writers' rooms. So Workaholics had a bunch of writers. I think it was like 8 writers for the duration of the show. And then one of my other shows had 4 writers for 4 weeks to what they call break all the story. So you don't have all of these minds helping you throughout the whole process. You have this sprint, right? Sometimes they're called mini rooms. Have you heard that term?
I haven't.
It's mini rooms are like, let's just get a bunch of people in here to kind of outline the stories, but then we don't have to pay them that much. They don't get any back end. They don't get really big credits in relation to the show. And what's happened is when they're not prioritizing writers' rooms, the projects are really, really suffering. Like you need writers on a show, like constantly coming up with ideas and improving it. Like
Mm.
on one of my shows, I think it was like I had 4 writers and probably 8 to 10 executives. Like that's a bad ratio.
It's a lot.
Yeah, there's
What were they all doing?
nothing. There's people, that's what's crazy in Hollywood. You could get to a certain level where you could like pick up your phone, make a phone call to get 1 star on the show, and then you collect a $50,000 per episode check. You're like, you just made 1 phone call.
Must be
Yeah.
nice. That's how I feel about brokers in New York.
Feel
They
about
just
what?
like brokers,
Yeah.
the real estate guys, and you're like they call you and they're like, okay, you can go inside. And you're like, you're not here. It's like it's okay, maybe 15% of the
Yeah.
annual rent now.
I know. I don't,
Like
yeah,
okay.
that's a whole scam. I don't think I could do
Yeah.
that. I don't think I could not work on something and collect. I would feel too guilty. Like I have to work. But
Yeah, it makes sense.
so that's why I like, as you said in the intro, like building this new counterculture. It's kind of my big call to action now because they're taking writers' rooms away from us. And someone your age, like how you learned is getting on a TV show and working with someone my age and hearing how I talk about story and hearing how I give notes and hearing how I take executives' bad ideas and turn them into our good ideas and the shorthand of story and how to pitch a premise or a hook. And you absorbed all that information and then you worked on that show. You got on the next show, you became head writer. And then the next one, you were a showrunner. But now with that mentorship gone, it's like a free for all and it's not working. The system's gone. And even if we can't pay writers for writers' rooms projects in the indie space, we have to figure out a writers' room structure, whether it's even just
Mhm.
a support group, because it works and it's needed.
So how do you foresee us kind of recapturing that magic if we can't do it exactly? How can we kind of mimic that system?
Well, my theory is that um, like writers' rooms, there's writers groups and there's writers rooms, right? And a writers group is like you meet up with 5, 6 people, you swap drafts, you all give each other's notes. It's almost like a support group. And I think in the new era, especially as Gen AI gets more integrated into our creative process, I think we're going to see more highly curated like support groups for writers. So it'd be like a writer's room, but
Mm-hmm.
you and I would all be in a group with like 4 other writers, and we're all helping each other. You're making a Pixar style animated feature about your aunt who could do magic or whatever. And I'm helping you give ideas and helping you shape your project. And then the next week, you're helping me with my, Indiana Jones anime, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like
yeah,
that.
I think it's like we need other brains and other collaborations. We'll all be working on our own individual projects, but you'll be meeting consistently to help each other because
Mm-hmm.
we're entering an era where it's going to get harder and harder to monetize visual digital media because anyone will be able to make anything. So you basically you need a bunch of people helping you figure out other ways to monetize projects.
Mm-hmm. And do you foresee different ways that we could be monetizing projects as it becomes more and more difficult too?
Like in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the now, really.
Yeah, exactly. And this is at my last company. I had some problems because I kind of took the stance of like, I don't think you can just sell content these days and make money. And it's sad, but I think that's where we are. And if you look at the big dogs like Apple TV makes great shows, but why do they make shows? To get you to buy more devices. Amazon, why do they make shows? Yes, they want to win awards, but they want you to stay on their platform and keep shopping. Disney makes shows to spread their brand, but also to get you to buy their toys and go to their parks. So even the big successful companies use stories, film, content, whatever you want to call it, to sell something else. So we have to embrace all of this kind of these new media formats and Gen AI to sell something else. You, for example, might be able to sell access to a film club that's like a DIY support group that has events and meetups. Other people might sell physical products or merch, but you got to use stories to sell something else, or courses too will be another big one.
Mhm. Yeah, you do. I am seeing that a lot. Like, I see it on. I mean, I'm subscribed to a Substack that I pay for that you then get access to a Discord
Yeah.
filled with other people, and that's like a big one. I personally commend her, and she deserves my $5 because I could not run that Discord
No,
or mod that at all. So
those are
that makes
really,
sense.
that's a lot of work to keep a community engaged. And this is where I feel bad for younger storytellers and writers. Is like, I started in a time where you could just do one thing well, but all of you to break in have to be studios of one. And it's stressful. It's hard. You have to learn, you have to do podcasts and learn how to do your own marketing and financing. It's really, really tough. I'm starting that journey now because my business is falling apart and I have to go back to just being a bootstrap, scrappy, entrepreneur.
Mhm. I do want to get back to that your business falling apart and bootstrapping, but I just want to kind of add another thing about how it's so nice to be able to just be and do one thing. One of the last pieces of my writing that I produced, I was asking the actors, I was like, "Oh, do you also write?" Because a lot of actors write, and they were all just like, "No, I don't," and I hate that. I feel like I have to. That like I just want to act. Like that's all I love to do. I don't want to do anything else. And now on this project that I'm working on, I have a stage manager, and it's oh my god, like just changed my life
Yeah.
so much. I'm so grateful for her, like that I don't have to, that I can just focus on being the creative brain of it all, and she's doing all these logistic things. Like I on the walk home, I'm like texting her. I'm just thinking like, "Wow, you're amazing. What would I do without you? Like this is incredible."
Well, that's
But
it. It's you'll have to do all of the roles to break in. But say if you have a play or something really take off, then you can put people in those support positions, and you can just take over one area. But
mhm.
the ramp up or the like building up your brand or kind of making some noise, that's the hard part, right? Doing all of it at once. And
Mm.
if you, but what would it be directing for you? Like if you just could plant your feet firmly in one zone of genius, would that be it?
I think it would have to be, how do I can't think of a fun way to merge these words, but like I like writing and directing,
Yeah.
and I really like directing what I'm writing. I do think I should probably give a throw at directing something else that someone else has written,
Yeah.
but I love writing, and
Yeah.
I at this point right now, no, that's not true. I have like written stuff and I've given to other people to like take, and like you can, I don't feel so precious over it, but I do love like building these words and bringing that together. So I would put them both together for now. And maybe at some point I could say, this is my number one thing. But
Yeah.
for now, I
When
keep
you
those together.
write, do you think like a director? Do you think visually, or do you think in terms of like more like I think in terms of like story arcs? Like I almost write like it's an equation. It's like a math equation that I'm putting together. But
Mm.
when you write, do you just automatically picture the actors on a stage or on a set moving around?
I don't picture so much the actors on a stage moving around, because I think because I also act, I know that I like to pick actors that I trust, that I can kind of let them do their thing. I
Yeah.
don't feel so strict about that. But I do write with production in mind. I do write thinking I'm not going to have so many set changes. I'm not going to do so many scenes, because if I want to get this done and I'm doing it myself, like this has to be able to happen. So I'm not going to put anything in space.
Yeah.
It's going to be I had a bar in a bedroom, things like that. I'm going to keep that story tight to there, because I'm always thinking, all right, I've got $2. What can I make with
Yeah.
$2 today?
Exactly. Yeah. Once you've run a show, you will never put another car, kid, or animal in your show ever again. Cars are a nightmare. Kids are a nightmare. Animals, forget about it. And one of my favorite notes, my comedian friend said he got this note on one of his like action comedy scripts. You need to turn all of your helicopters into vans. Yeah.
Um, I like that though. I mean, you can do that in like the editing process, right? I know I have crutch words, so after I do a first draft, I'll like Command F what my crutch word is, and I'm just like going and I'm like, we don't need that there, we don't need that there, we don't need that there.
Yeah.
So you can go Command F helicopter, van,
Yeah.
van, 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 van.
What's your crutch word? Do you have a favorite?
I'm a I'm a big just
Yeah.
like, yeah, because I also write things that are very naturalistic. So I write how I and other people around me talk, and so of course just is going to come in there. But I'm like, we don't. It even though we know we talk like that in real life, it doesn't feel good seeing people talk
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. I think I'm a big
So I think it
okay.
doesn't
I'm an
connect.
okay guy. I'm like, whenever I'm going to make a pivot and it's kind of off track, I go, okay. And then I change the subject. Okay. Yeah.
Scene change.
Yeah. Exactly.
I want to go back to the bootstraps thing. Let's talk about how you got there and how you're feeling, and I guess this relates to how to build a movie studio.
Yeah.
Your Substack.
Yeah. So you're talking about like bootstrapping now or bootstrapping like how I got into Hollywood? We kind of covered that, but like just going back to
No,
the indie movement now.
yeah,
Yeah.
going back to the indie movement now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like a few years ago, my wife is a life coach and like she's very good at coaching people through heavy stuff. And as Hollywood was kind of falling apart and opportunities were consolidating, she started reflecting some language back to me. It's like, hey, you're kind of starting to sound like an addict, like
Mm.
trying to sell what we call package TV shows, which is like you get all your stars aligned, you get your big directors, or trying to sell big features. Like it sounds like you're addicted to this. Like that's the kind of desperate language you're using. And that really shook me because I had gotten a few levels into Hollywood and I felt it is kind of a pyramid scheme. And you feel like if you just get one more, then you'll be in this league, you know? And it's really alluring. It's really addicting. But when
Mm-hmm.
she said that, it really shook me. And I realized I was playing the game more than being like a passionate storyteller. And I'd gotten cynical, like a lot of people in Hollywood. And this all kind of happened like leading up to COVID and then after COVID. And what really changed too is I started coaching and teaching writers, like writers your age, and it rekindled my optimism in storytelling and what's possible, like connecting with people who are at the start of their journey. And then that all led to like, hey, I don't need to solely pursue opportunities in Hollywood. I can coach and teach and do workshops and do
Mm-hmm.
consulting and make a decent living and really go back to not chasing mandates or trends or like trying to predict what executives are going to like, and go back to like why did I get into this? Like I got into this to work with interesting people and to tell stories that help people.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I left LA. My wife and I had a daughter 2 years ago. I moved back to
Congratulations.
I moved back to San Francisco, and my city is in a really weird state right now. Um, a lot of people have left, as you know, because you're in tech. It's a big tech culture here. It's
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful city aesthetically, but we have tent cities and we have robot cars. It is the fucking most socially awkward people in the world. Like, it is hilarious how like because my wife and I are the opposite, so we talk to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But coming home and walking around all of these beautiful neighborhoods with my daughter in her backpack, I just kind of was like, I really want to bring films back to San Francisco. There used to be such a presence here. And it doesn't have to be San Francisco, but just indie films and
Mm-hmm.
stories that feel really pure and authentic, and they're very, you know, relatable but fun. And like a lot of indie movies fall for the awards bait stuff, and like I don't want to do that. I want to make movies that you watch with a weed gummy or a mushroom gummy or a bottle of wine on a Friday night with friends. um
Yeah.
so yeah, and I'm just kind of putting all the infrastructure together here, and if I get a better offer to do it somewhere else in another city with good tax incentives, I'll jump ship. But right now the
Mm-hmm.
plan is build a little low budget movie studio in San Francisco.
And you grew up in San Francisco, right?
Yep, San Francisco. And then my parents moved across the bridge, and I did almost 20 years in Los Angeles. So from college, yeah,
Damn. Mm.
yeah, it was
That's a
a.
long time. Mm.
I lived everywhere down there, and I have some wild experiences. If anyone wants to go to my Substack, I made an episode, the 10 weirdest things that I saw in Los Angeles.
We'll link it.
Yeah,
The 10 weirdest things I saw. I can't believe you could limit it to 10.
there was so many. I'm going to have to do multiple episodes.
And then when you say build a movie studio, what do you mean by that?
So my big bet is I think Substack is going to be the future home of independent media. And I
Mm,
think we're just seeing the initial surge now. And like Twitter X is kind of, I think they're going to start getting into the original content game. But the big, the big area that like where we get really screwed as writers, directors is in distribution. And if you and I made an indie film and we took it to a distributor, like we are going to lose so much money in order to like get that film on a platform. Like
mm,
I got into a movie deal where I was only going to make $75,000, and it wouldn't have covered a fraction of what the film would have cost. Like there's just
wow.
so the streaming platforms now offer exposure, but no ownership, no royalties. So I think my big bet is that as Substack grows and the user base grows, we'll be able to organize people like you and I and other filmmakers on there into a channel where we can kind of promote each other's work and have kind of a joint distribution channel. So it's almost like a decentralized channel or a collective, and we'll be able to distribute our films directly on Substack, and have its own page, and you can $5 to rent it or $10 from a premium subscription, and you have access to a private community, or like $20 for the premiere package where you get cool gifts or merch. But that custom distribution model is going to be a game changer. It's not there yet, but I'm pretty sure it will be in a few years.
So there's this platform called Meta Label, and I want to say it's by some of the founders of Kickstart. I could be making that up, but I don't think I am, but I also could be. But it's super cool, and a lot of people are talking about bringing back ownership, right? Like people are really annoyed with Spotify. People are just really trying to release things on their own. And Meta Label, number one of the big things that they did that just got me thinking about them is they were talking about how, as creative people and artists, you should not be so trapped into producing content and like just pumping things out all the time. Although I am doing that with my little Substack, but just like gearing away from that and doing like slow releases and how that can be important. And the platform itself, they have like a nice split thing that you can put up there. Like when you are releasing things, you can add in other creators and like just how you give them a percentage and stuff. And it has it's really like a nice portfolio space. It's really cool. I don't know how I will utilize it yet, but I'm always thinking about it and looking at it. And they have a Substack too, and like they do pretty cool podcasts, and they do stuff with the Creative Independent. Do you know the Creative Independent?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think they're the Kickstarter one. I think they are both, but people from Kickstarter. But yeah, it's all this like big movement of just having ownership of your stuff, and also not being forced to just submit to the algorithm, because you can't game the algorithm. It's getting insane. I was on TikTok for a while, and I'm about a month and a half TikTok free. It's been really, really great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Has your nervous system reset? Do you feel healthier?
I feel like whenever I get on the internet and I see people talking about things that are super internet-y, I'm like, what are you guys talking about even? Like, nobody is talking about this in real life. Nobody cares. So that's been really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't game the algorithm. It wants to control you. You can't control it. So just moving away from that. And that's why I also like to just, like, I have the creative salon that I try to do things in person. And that is why I like to do a lot of plays right now, because it will bring people together, and people want to come together, and people want to do like real things. They want to do physical stuff. I'm super into physical media right now. Also, like I print out photos that I take on my phone, and
great.
So I'm like, guys, we can't trust the cloud. Like,
well, we're with the Gen AI stuff. We're going to have a solar system of new content. Everyone will be making their own movies, but you could make the argument that it could bring back physical media in some ways. Like, okay, like you might not want to pay for someone's animated movie, but you might pay to get it on a DVD in a cool little case or something. So I think this is the hard part now, is like the company that you mentioned, Meta Label, and the Substack culture in the community that's growing. Like there's new thought leaders and new models popping up. And as the old system, what I call the gatekeeper model of like Hollywood and publishing industry, that's all dying and crumbling. And the new one's taking shape. But right now we're in a wasteland where there's not, it's kind of a no man's land. Like the opportunities in Hollywood are going away, and the new systems aren't built yet. So we as writers, creators, storytellers, directors have to kind of navigate this wasteland as new ownership models and new revenue models get built, or we build them ourselves.
Yeah, it's a scary place, but it's a good place to be in because it's kind of like anything can happen. What's happening?
Yeah,
We don't
I mean, it's a
know.
good point. And so many of my friends in Hollywood who have massive credits and a long IMDb list, they're not working, and neither are up and coming writers. So the entire playing field's been level, which is kind of fair in a weird way of to be like, okay, we're all just on the internet model, and do other people like what you're doing or not? And there's no more politics to it. It's like, are you putting out good stuff and are people backing it or not?
Yeah, no, that feels good. I feel like that's how it should be, right? Like I want my friends to think I'm cool. I
Yeah.
want them to like what's up. It doesn't. It matters less and less to me what the masses think. Like even I was struggling about like I wanted to put something on my Substack, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I should put this out there. Like I don't know. And I was like, who
Yeah.
cares? Like at the end of the day, I want to put it out there. Like I don't want to be stuck in this. Like, well, what does this mean if someone sees? It wasn't like offensive or anything or like evil. So why would I care if someone
Yeah.
sees it and thinks like a whatever way or doesn't like it? It doesn't matter.
What's the most common resistance in your head before you put something out? Like, what is the feared gif for the loop that plays in your head? Like, it'll get rejected, or people won't like it, or people think differently. What goes through your head?
Like with like when that thought comes up,
Yeah.
it's usually something along the lines of sometimes I'm afraid of like offending people,
Yeah.
even though I don't think I have super, super hot
Yeah.
takes. Um, I do worry because I do just want to make like I don't want anyone to feel bad or anything, but I do want to be true to myself, and I hope that that comes across that I have really good intentions.
Yeah.
But I do worry about, especially because the internet's so like easy for people to jump on things and then
Yeah.
like misconstrue your words, and then it turns into this whole hullabaloo,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Ooh,
no,
good
but the
word.
nuance, and and so that's definitely something that I get worried about. I don't want to offend anyone,
Yeah.
but I feel less and less that way. Not that I don't want to offend anyone, but more so that that fear is going to stop me from putting something out there that I know I'm coming with like the best of intentions with, that I don't want to hurt anyone, and that's not in my heart or anything. So
Yeah.
I have to trust that
Yeah.
the ether will see it that way as well.
I think mine is like I am, there's just no way to avoid it. I am an empathetic meathead. Like, I'm a large person. I've played sports, but I'm also a compassionate person, and I'm always concerned about being thrown into one of the guy buckets that I don't want to be in. Like,
Mm.
and especially because there's a lot of men in Hollywood that did horrible things and got canceled, but I just don't, like, I never want to get thrown in like the meathead bucket or the this bucket. And it just, so I'm always kind of not censoring, but thinking about how it's going to land, because it's weird to be a guy right now. It's a very complex minefield.
Do you hear that, everyone? We need to have more sympathy for men.
I mean, we're going through it. You women have embraced the collaborative spirit of the internet, and you're amazing multitaskers. Men are fucking isolated and fucking lost right now.
That's funny that you mentioned that. I was gonna keep it a secret, but I actually have said recently, like, guys, I think we need to go easy on the men. I don't like, something. It's getting a little intense, and in the play that I wrote recently, I was talking to my friend who also is in it, and I was just like, talking about the play, and he was saying like, yeah, I think all the characters are really well defined. Like maybe you could say the guys like could be interchangeable. And I was like, well, I'm okay with that. But it kind of did stick with me because then I saw someone write on something on Substack about how um men and women are writing caricatures of each other.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to do that. So today as I'm walking to rehearsal, I was like, I think the next thing I write has to be all men. And I was like,
Yeah, it's a good challenge.
but I think it has to
Yeah.
be.
It's a good I have a group of, it's about 12 female writers. Whenever I write a female character, beg them to come on a Zoom and they just break it to pieces. But at least I know it's like gotten past a group of my female writer friends, and it adds so much more depth and dimension. But I think it's a really good challenge, and I think that that shows kind of empathy when you're trying to understand someone else's point of view. And we gotta. Some people get angry about that if you're writing a character that's out of your space, but I personally think that's a good thing. Like, you're gonna do the work to try to understand.
Yeah. And I mean, art and writing especially is about just empathy, right?
Yeah.
That's how we when you're reading a fiction book, that's how you're understanding this, like maybe a different culture or maybe just a different age group or just a different world that could be your neighbor's world.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of it to me. Like, that's the beauty of storytelling, is just bringing people together.
Yeah, it
Is
is.
what we want.
It is truly magic, and film and television, but it, like, when you really break it apart, it's photography over lighting, over costume design, over architecture, over acting, over writing. It's every layer of art. And when it's seamless and it's being done really well, it is so powerful. And like you said, I don't know the like science behind storytelling, but and how it creates more empathy, or how we kind of put ourselves in someone's shoes that's completely unlike us. But I just read a novel set in India about a mother-daughter, and I cried multiple times, and I'm not a crier. And I'm
Mm,
like, that is the power of story. I felt
yeah.
it every step of the way.
No, it's so true. And before or I pressed record, you said a phrase. You said it's like a shared hallucination.
Yeah, that's,
I loved that.
yeah, I always, like, when I'm coaching writers, I always kind of explain that, like, I mean, just think about George R. R. Martin. He's this kooky old man that lives in New Mexico that drank pots of coffee, and he had a hallucination about a woman riding a dragon, and he put that into keys, and now that shit is in stuffed animals. It's at every bookstore. It was on TV. It's Halloween costumes. Like, a hallucination from one man's brain rippled out into the real world. And when I talk to
Hmm.
writers, I'm always like, you have to remember how insane this is. Like, when you go and pitch a TV show, you're going to pitch 4, 5, 6 executives in a beautiful boardroom that's like overlooking the Los Angeles Vista, and you're asking for tens of millions of dollars to invest in your hallucination. Like, that is insane. Asking strangers to invest in a hallucination is wild. Like, it
Yeah,
is
when
like
you
a
put
drug
it that
trade.
way.
Yeah. And you're asking them to stake their entire careers and their families' like financial well-being on your hallucination. Like, that's why you have to be a confident, competent person, because that's not easy to do.
No, and yeah, I'm still thinking about George R. R. Martin and his hallucination of the dragon, and now we all can hallucinate that
Yeah,
same exact dragon. Wow, that's gotta be so wild.
yeah,
Just having I mean, I experienced it on a small scale, like being in rehearsal with my actors, a small studio space, and having them just speak the words on the page. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I was writing this in my notes app, like
yeah.
not too long before this, and now you guys are asking me questions about it. Like, what do you mean you're asking me questions, like, to understand it more, like, and getting it? It's
And not only is
just
it
an
a
idea.
hallucination, but it's a time traveling hallucination. So, like, you in your mind
Mm,
went back into your past to some crazy or weird memory, collected it, brought it back to the present, dusted it off, and then, like, basically forecasted an idea into the future. And so you're time traveling through your brain as well. Like, it's really,
mm-hmm.
I know it sounds like we're taking psychedelics when we're talking about it, but it is wild. Like, storytelling is what makes us distinctly human being. It allows us to create structures that don't exist right around us that we can collaborate in, because everything is just a
Mm.
story. Money is a story, government is a story, politics, like, it's all stories that we believe in, and we can collaborate within those systems.
I don't want to get too existential, but I can never help it.
Like,
My mom and I, we saw Deepak Chopra speak. That's like he's her favorite.
yeah.
And I definitely went into it like, I don't know, but I left. I was like, this is incredible. And he was talking about how this is just basically like a dream, right? Like the only thing that's existing is like this second right now.
Yep.
And like yesterday was a dream. So even though we're talking about these works of arts as hallucination, like just this existence right here is also a shared hallucination.
Yep. Yeah, that's where like
So it's a
that's where you can
hallucination within the
go.
hallucination.
Yeah, you can go into the like deep dive of consciousness, and is this a simulation, and are we, like story is like there's so much raw data that our brain experiences in a day that we basically we it puts it into a linear like story structure so we can understand what's happening to us. And if you
Mhm.
study schizophrenics, they don't have that ability, so they're kind of like, it would be like being in a writer's room where everyone's in control all at once and screaming. So they can't organize the data coming in. But yeah, it's what our brains are capable of. And like, it's wild, and how stories are so ingrained in us. And also another reason why like people like you need to keep organizing salons and events, because from my opinion, as someone who's really studied story structure, like all of our outlets to creating stories are becoming more, it's like contentification. So
Mm,
the outlets to make stuff are rapidly expanding, but our understanding of story structures diminishing. So we
mm,
need to like get creative groups of people together to kind of keep that myths and plays and like all the classic stuff and keep that alive. So we go into this new era of like Gen AI holding some of that.
mm. Before we before we go on another psilocybin trip, I would love to close this off with a little a little exercise of sorts.
Yeah.
So you're 23, you graduated college, you did a little world tour, you just traveled Southeast Asia for a little bit, and now you're back in the States and you're like, okay, I want to work. I want to make stuff happen. How would you approach that now today?
Good question. In terms of pursuing my field of like film and TV,
Yeah.
okay. Or well, I could just talk about this forever, but I'll do the bullet points. Well, first of all, don't be a boring person. That's
Mm,
lesson number one. So it's good
writing
that you
that down.
traveled. I meet a lot of writers that are very sweet people, but they're very boring. Um, and they're kind of just regurgitators. Like, here's a headline and here's some trendy internet words, and I'm going to regurgitate it onto a page. Like, to be a
Mm-hmm.
storyteller, you have to be an interesting person. But I think step one, um, on that path is mastering story structure, taking a class at Script Anatomy, which is like an online writing school that is story structure boot camp. And what that does is like someone that age is going to be so full of raw talent and ideas, but you have to funnel that into story structures. And the other reason it's important, every story has subjective and objective elements, right? So subjective is kind of like the style of how a story is told, and objective is the actual story structure. Was this premise told effectively? Is there an active character with a false truth inside of them that has a flaw that has to overcome these goals and meets allies and enemies, blah, blah, blah? And the reason you have to understand story structure is if you want to become a professional working writer, you're going to get into a lot of creative arguments, and you have to be able to defend your turf, defend your decisions. And that requires a mastery of story structure, because executives can come in and be like, hey, I love this, but this scene didn't really work for me. And if you understand story structure, you'll be like, well, okay, I can change how it was written, but this particular scene sets up the ending here, or it touches on our theme, or it sets up this character's arc. So step number one is mastering story structure, taking classes, and then just integrating it by writing outline after outline after outline. Like, don't get bogged down writing big, long drafts and perfecting things. Make story structure muscle memory, So you get it to a point where your friends are coming to you to help, have their stories fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And then 80% of your time goes into generating ideas and perfecting do you know what a portfolio is? I just did weird Trump hands. I don't know why I did that.
Because he's everywhere.
I did one of these where he shrinks it down.
A portfolio.
Yeah. You had it good. Portfolio is basically like your resume of scripts. And so you perfect your portfolio, you spend 80% of your time getting your projects down and 20% of your time networking. And then say 2 years go by, you're in your mid 20s, you flop those. Once you're competent in story structure, once you feel good about the projects that you want to put in front of people, 80% of your time into networking, 20% into generating new ideas. That route, that was a handful of stuff thrown at everyone, but that will at least put you in a position to get lucky. And it's harder. Opportunities are dwindling in the old landscape, but story structure, being an interesting person, like having good scripts, and you don't need to have a huge network, like 20 people of like good contacts. That's it.
And I feel like a lot of what you said also leads to, at the end of the day, people want to work with people that like they would really like to work with, whether that means that you're nice or you are just good to talk to, you're interesting, and you can network, you can talk to people. I think that like it sucks to be an asshole, and you shouldn't do that.
And there's a lot of them in Hollywood. It's bad.
It's an epidemic.
Yeah, that's why you see like camps or tribes get kind of insular. Like Adam Sandler, for example, he only works with the same people over and over again, because if you find good people in that business, you're like, we're closing ranks. We don't need anyone else.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I get it. Like, if someone was like, oh, I'll give you this many $1 million to take your friends on vacation and make something funny, it'd be like, yeah, I'll do it. I know exactly who I'm calling.
Yeah. It's so fun when you are on set with friends or in a writer's room with people you love. There's, that part of the creative process is one of my favorites. And then blocking, do you know what blocking is? So
No,
like say if you and I created a show and you're the director and I'm the showrunner, we're shooting episode 2, but you and I are prepping for episode 3. So we go to an empty warehouse or the house where we're going to shoot the next set. It's a showrunner, writer, and a director literally putting tape down and mapping out where the actors are going to come in.
like blocking. Okay.
Yeah, you're reading through the script together.
Like
you're improvising. You're finding new ways in and out of the scene. So it's 2 really talented people with 2 assistants basically miming out the show and having a blast doing it and just being weird. It's the best. Like, it's so intimate but fun. So those are my 2 favorite parts of the whole process.
I love that. Yeah. And we do blocking in theater too, but you do basically the same thing, but everyone has their own different ways to do it.
Yeah.
Well, Connor, thank you so much. I would love to, I guess we covered so many things, but I would love to give you a little bit of just like the floor. If you have any final words you'd like to say, what's next? If you want to plug something.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm kind of just focusing on building out my Substack. I had been a writer who had never done a podcast or got in front of the camera or done anything like this. I didn't have to. But now in this new landscape, I feel like if I really want to help talented people and put other talented writers in a position to succeed, I have to build my own platform. And I know so many people that are incredibly talented that aren't working, and it literally keeps me up at night. So I'm building a platform now, and
empathetic meathead.
Yeah, exactly. I need to turn that into a brand of some kind. But yeah, I'm really going to make a push over the next 2 years to build a platform and to be able to have a channel where I can promote people. So check out the Substack. And then I'm also really proud of this episode I just put out called The Future of Story, where I tried to forecast what story is going to look like in 10 years. And it's wild, and I'm very irreverent, and I curse a lot, and I'm not good on camera yet, but I'm proud of that episode.
That's awesome, and I will put all that in the text so everybody can click all the stuff.
Yes, and I'm an open book, and if anyone wants to come to Substack with us and ask questions, I will be there.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Connor.
Cool.
And thank you, listeners. Goodbye. Thanks for sitting down with artists like us. I'm Janita Richards, and I want you to be inspired by the life that's lived by you, because of you, and all around you. Do you know the perfect guest for us? Drop me a line at janita@cabbagehouse.xyz and let's chat. If you're feeling up to it, leave us a review and share with your friends. It means a lot. Stay sweet, sexy, silly, and inspired. I'll see you here next time with another great guest just as interesting as the last.